Hi, it's me. I'm jumping in here really quick to tell you about an opportunity that we have reserved for Resiliency Redefined podcast listeners. So, this is for you. We're offering a code, which is LAB, like literally like chocolate lab puppies, but that was too long. So, we just went with LAB, LAB, for you to have a discount on the next offering of the Stress Wisely Lab. This is a virtual learning experience where we come together, we problem solve, we critically think, we find exactly what you need. So for the next 90 days, you are well positioned to feel your very best. So October 27th is their next Stress Wisely Lab. The code for you as a listener of the podcast is LAB. As I said, Chocolate Lab Puppies was too long, so it's just LAB. And feel free to follow the link, sign up. There's a spot for you there. Thanks for listening. Now enjoy this episode of Resiliency Redefined. Welcome to Resiliency Redefined. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to share with you information about resiliency, well-being, performance, education, business, parenting, and everything in between. I'm committed to joining you each week to talk about these big ideas and bring them into action, habits, tools, strategies, tactics that allow us to finally uncover what it takes to truly be well. And I'm just so excited that you're here. Welcome back to Resiliency Redefined. Today is special. I basically owe my life to hope. The very least I could do is write a book about it. That is the opening remarks, the opening message in the newest book that I'm so excited to tell you all about that is coming out in February 10, 2026. That sounds far away. It's actually not that far away, or maybe it's super far away if you need more time. That's okay too. But the idea is this episode, it's dedicated to telling you a wee bit about the new book. I hope so. How to choose hope even when it's hard. So, as I said, I started that book with the idea by saying, I basically owe my life to hope. One of the ideas that I've been working with, playing around with, exploring, researching is the role hope plays in resiliency. Now, if you're familiar with my work, you probably know that hope is one of my 5 pillars. We talk about the 5 pillars of everyday resiliency, the idea of belonging, acceptance, perspective, hope, and humor. And one of the through lines that I saw putting together that research, working with groups all around the world. We estimated now that I've worked with like hundreds of thousands of people with that model of everyday resiliency, which just, oh my goodness, that blows my mind. It's very special. So a big thank you and holding space, how significant that is. And one of the pieces in that work and all the different ways it shows up is that, like, I often get asked, Robyne, what's the most important pillar? And I would usually say, like, well, they all have a place, and they do in different order at different times, different seasons. Like, there's a little bit of ebb and flows. And what I was starting to see time and time again was the practice of living hope filled was making such a difference. And to be able to be part of community, we had to hope, we had to believe, we had to open ourselves up to what's possible. And again, we just kept seeing this theme of hope coming to the forefront. And it doesn't mean the other pillars aren't as important. I did see, though, there was this beautiful through line of hope. So this was like just this noticing. And fast forward, now all of a sudden we're working on the book Stress Wisely. And now I get to talk about, burnout and stress and well-being and all of these amazing topics. And again, just so appreciative that I've been able to spend time in this space. And once again, one of these like noticings was just, okay, who shows up and tries a new program or a new habit or a new routine or a new approach? What is it about them that allows them to even just try again, especially when they've been knocked down before? And yes, it's resiliency 100%. That's the idea that we are able to adapt. We are nimble enough that we can try again. We're brave enough. We're courageous enough to step back into that arena. But how is that possible? Once again, there was this through line of hope. even though perhaps it hasn't worked for them in the past, they were giving another shot. They were hoping that this time it might be different or hoping that this time it was the right season. So, my friends, I'm sorry for the wee bit of a ramble. However, that kind of is the Robin special. I think sometimes my digressions serve us well. However, all that to be said, what was coming out all the time. Like what I was just right in front of me, but I was just like, wow, how come I haven't seen this yet in such a clear way? Was the power of hope, was the power of choosing to live hope filled. And then, you know what? I decided, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to be synonymous with the idea of hope. So when I look at the body of work that I created, I'm like, I want to talk more about hope. I want to be synonymous with hope. How do I do that? And as the amazing Phil M. Jones, the one and only Phil M. Jones says, be seen doing what it is you want to be doing. Okay, so let's just hold space for that. So how do you like create a new body of work or how do you put yourself out there and like really shape the narrative? You have to be seen doing the thing that you want to be known for. And what I realized is I was getting pretty known in my own little ecosystem as somebody who is known for resiliency. Yes, personally and professionally, that's my thing. And that will never go away. Then I was starting to be kind of known for and the go to resource for some people around burnout and stress, which is great. And I want to be of service. That's I feel called to do. And this next iteration, this next summit, this next evolution, this next opportunity, my friends, I want to be talking about hope because it matters. It changes us physiologically and psychologically. So when I approached my publisher to say, hey, book 3, I want it to be about hope. And thankfully, I get to work with such an amazing group of people at Page Two. It's this beautiful, just this beautiful assortment of wonderful humans supporting good work out in the West Coast of Canada. The publishing company is called Page Two, and they published my 2 other books. I said, are you open to this idea? And I got their support, which was very special to me. And it's appreciated. So we decided that the next book on the docket for Robyne was going to be about hope. What I love about any time when I start researching and putting together the pieces is that the work has been already unfolding. And what I mean by that is like I do a lot of thinking and just a little bit of writing when it comes to putting new ideas in the space. I've been thinking about this, wanting to share hope practices because I do wholeheartedly believe that hope is a strategy, that hope is more than wishful thinking. Hope is something that is so big and strong and powerful while also being tender and vulnerable and very, very personal. So, in this big book about a hope, what I wanted to do was dive into where hope fits in the big story. Okay, so I'll give you a quick kind of sneak peek. The idea was looking at hope for like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? So the first part of the book is looking at like the origins of hope because I came across one of like, and let me tell you, I have a lot of favorite hope stories, but this one idea that like just literally was like the fuel that like set this big dream ablaze was when I started to do this like little bit of like super sleuthing because people who know me know that I love a good rabbit hole. Like, oh my goodness, if I have to learn about something, it's like I am going to go so deep. I'm going dark. I'm going all in. It's funny, as I've shared before, my boys are ballers and basketballers, and they be balling. And I love the even just the concept of the notion of ballin because it's be all in. Okay, so balling, like, yes, it's basketball, blah, blah, blah. How I also love it when I think of the word balling, it's like when they're balling, they are all in. So I went all in getting the kind of origins of hope, figuring out where this was, because I was going to make this super rock solid scientific research backed argument as why hope effing matters, especially when things feel hopeless. Okay, so I go all in, ball in, here I am, and I come across this story. And I talk about this story in, I believe it's chapter 1. Absolutely, it's chapter 1. And I'm going to share it with you here because I want you to get as ballin' about hope as I am right now. And it has to do with Pandora's box. Okay, so you might remember the gosh, I always forget if is this it's not a myth, it's like an old story, right? This belief about Pandora's box. Okay. Now you've probably noticed Pandora's box. The expression usually is like, don't take the lid off Pandora's box. Where does this even come from? Well, First and foremost, Pandora is a woman in this Greek mythology, this Greek story, and she was gifted a jar, technically a jar, not a box, but the expression or the sample usually talks about Pandora's box. It was more likely a jar. I digress. Okay. She gets this jar and it is from Zeus. Okay. And the instructions that Zeus gave her was like, here you can have this, but don't open it because inside were essentially all the evil that could come into the world. Okay. So all of the evil, bad, no good, rotten things in the world were actually contained in this jar. And he gave it to her and he said, just do not open it. Now, let's just hold space to just recognize that obviously we do know that she did open it and she unleashed hell on earth. Interesting that this is an origin story. Pandora was the first woman on earth. I happen to know another origin story of another woman who was the first woman on earth. Believe her name was Eve, who also unleashed hell on the world by tempting Adam with the apple. I do think it's just interesting that we have two very different yet parallel stories of women unleashing hell on earth. Okay, you're wondering when people started to have beef with women? Pretty much from these origin stories. Okay, I digress from a digression. So Pandora is given this jar, all of the evils in the world, and she gets curious. Totally understandable. As somebody with ADHD, I totally get it. If somebody said, "Here, Robin, have it, don't open it," the first thing I'm going to do is open it. And she opens it and unleashes all of these deadly sins. Okay, all of this evil comes out into the world. And then at the very last second, she closes the lid. Okay, so she closes the lid down on that jar, and one thing remained in that jar. You might not know this part of the story. What remained was the power of hope. I kid you not. This is literally how the story goes. Everything, all the deadly sins get unleashed in the world. All these evil things get unleashed. But however, just in the nick of time, she was able to close the lid, and hope remains. So there are so many different threads that we can pull on that story. There are so many different ideas. And even some philosophers, some scholars, some people look at that and say, like, you know what, hope is actually awful. They're like, it's the worst. It gets people's hopes up. It's just another way of punishing people, is that we hope things could be better. We trust and it doesn't work out. And so they actually believe that hope being left behind was like, again, it was just one of the other deadly elements that it just destroys mankind or humankind. I choose not to believe that. That's not how I choose to look at this part of the story, this part of the tale. It's this idea that to be able to have a fighting chance against all of the evil, all of the bad, all of the no good, rotten things in the world, we needed something. We needed something to be able to combat that, to have, as I said, a fighting chance. And that fighting chance, that ingredient, that key component for us is hope. So that kicks off chapter one. Okay. I go into it, I explain, talk about different theories and different ideas about what that comes from. But then what's so important to me and why I wanted to create this body of work in this particular way is we've been talking about hope for a very, very long time. And hope has started rebellions. Hope has brought healing. Hope has dramatically changed the course of history. So in the book at the very beginning, I take a wee time to like hopscotch through history. I actually think the chapter is called hopscotching through history, because I just wanted to show you this isn't wishful thinking. This isn't just some new idea we drummed up in the 60s or the 70s to think, hey, you know what, this could be good. No, this is real. This is ingrained in our human condition. We are hardwired to be able to, even in the hardest, darkest, scariest seasons, have a strategy, have this ingredient, this variable, this factor that makes a difference. So after I went down my Pandora's jar and all the things, I started to use these different concepts to be able to say, how do we operationalize this? What does it mean to live hope filled? I see it in practice. I see it every time when I work with someone, when they tell me about their comeback story, when they tell me about people who they were able to count on, that, even though that the world was so unwell and these awful, no good, rotten things happened, they were still able to heal. They were able to grow. They were able to keep showing up. And that ability to do that came down to hope practices. So the book is dedicated to that. It's dedicated to all of these ideas around what does it look like to live hope filled. And this is not wishful thinking. As I said, this is not Pollyanna. This isn't those things. It's like there is scientific research-based evidence that shows us that we are designed for this. We are designed to believe. We are designed to hold faith. We are designed to trust that all will be well. Now, from a physiological perspective, there's actually, and we talk about this in the book, there's research that shows that our recovery, our ability to heal, our ability to repair ourselves on a physiological level has a hope component, that we have to be able to see a future. We have to be able to see the idea that we can repair, that we can grow, that we can heal. And it does change us on that physiological level. It impacts our cells. Our nervous system is designed to be able to repair. So, on one end, we can look at it in terms of bouncing back from these hard things. And on the other end, there's like proactive ways that we can use physiology of hope. And so, for example, like when you exercise, when you go for that brisk walk, when you just are in a place of movement and your body starts to work and you get that little sacred shake, like, when you're in plank and you get that like little sacred shake where you're getting that, you're burning up, you're feeling it. Something that's being released from your body is hope molecules. I kid you not. There is literally a scientific term called hope molecules. Your body learns it can get stronger, it can do hard things, it impacts our psychology, it impacts our physiology. It's so cool to know that there are little molecules called hope molecules that we can actually generate. And it's going to give us what we need to be able to be brave, to show up, to keep trying, to trusting that this is going to work out somehow. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to be pretty. It's like, just if we're able to live hope filled, that doesn't mean everything is going to be pretty. And that's the other concept that I wanted to really help people understand the difference of, is between optimism and living hope filled. Now, spoiler alert, they are absolutely not the same things. Optimism, the easiest way to describe it is it's attached to an outcome. Hope is choosing and believing and leaning into what comes. Okay, so it is a fundamental difference. If I'm optimistic, it's like, this is going to work out. I'm going to get the job. I'm going to have this opportunity. Like, it's about an outcome, being optimistic. Being pessimistic is attributing to, like, it's not going to happen. It's not likely going to unfold the way I want to. We don't want to get our hopes up, right? Like, it's that pessimistic view of outcome. Hope is how we see the world. It is a lens that trusts even in darkness. It is finding that through line, even in the most difficult ways and difficult seasons, to be able to see a possibility of things unfolding in a perfect way. So again, I spent a lot of time in the book kind of differentiating that, but also giving people practical tools on how to do it. The other kind of piece that I wanted to share with you, and again, I want you to be so excited about this, because I am so excited to see the relief this brings people. It's okay to get our hopes up. It's okay to look at the face of our children and say, the future is bright. We are not handing them this doom and gloom forecast that it's like we're all going to hell in a handbasket, and yeah, it's not discounting that there aren't real stressors, real uncertainty, real challenges. But I have so much confidence that what we are handing our children is a big, bright future, because we're going to figure this out, because historically we do figure things out. Our survival rate for hard things is 100%. We are allowed to get our hopes up, because what we see is when we have a practice of hope, when we've cultivated, and we talk about it, there's so many different ways I onboard you to these ideas in the book around like your 3 hope moves, understanding hope havens. Like, there's lots of practical gems in there. But the idea, big idea, the spine, the heart of this, the through line of the book is that when you cultivate a hope practice, what you are doing, it's how your resources are being used in your body, in your mind, in your heart, in your actions, that actually allows you to have the energy, have the confidence, the bravery, even the courage to be able to keep moving forward. So you can go through things and you can not get your hopes up. You can try to protect yourself, which is why people say don't get your hopes up. They're trying to protect you from disappointment. They're trying to protect you from those big feelings of things being outside of your control. I totally get it. But the reality is, when we do get our hope up, we unlock possibility. We unlock these big, bright, beautiful futures where we can be co-creators of creating days where we feel better, days where we're more energized, where we are able to look after our bodies, we're able to look after our hearts, we're able to look after our minds because we know that this is worth it. It knows that we are well positioned and we're well resourced to do this. Now, as a mama of three teenagers, when I look sometimes at the doom and gloom forecasts out there, it's not that we are ignoring or avoiding difficult conversations or difficult realities. The world is very unwell. The world has, for all intents and purposes, been unwell for a very long time. And we find a way through. We find a way to be able to keep showing up. And in that book, that's what I do. Okay, so I hope I'm getting you balling about this, being all in, because this, I tell you, this content is so special. I also want to hold space to answer a question that I already got asked by someone. They said, Robyne, I hope so. You named your book, I hope so. Well, once again, I want to give a big shout out to Phil M. Jones because that was the person standing in an elevator lobby in Las Vegas when I'm like, dude, you are master of words. Would you help me think about this? He was one of the ones that got that idea rolling about, I hope so. And I'll tell you, it felt like I felt it in my bones. Like I literally felt it like in my bones when he said, I hope so. Now, he said it with his super adorable British accent, which just makes everyone sound way more smart when they use a British accent. I'm not saying he uses a British accent, he has a British accent. So he says, I hope so, in his British accenty way. And all of a sudden, when he said it, it literally was just like, that's it. It's like these titles and these names are kind of like out there in the world. They were kind of percolating in my world. And then it was like, not quite it, not quite it, not quite it. And then all of a sudden it came out of M. Jones. He's like, I hope so. And I'm like, that is it. Thank you. And there is something to be said when you have named something and the name just feels so right. Right. I feel that when I look at my faces where I'm like, Jackson is such Jax. Hunter is such a Hunter. Ava is such a Ava. And which, by the way, is Hebrew for little Robin for people who are curious about Ava. So, yes, I did name my child after myself. So, it's not just a practice for dudes to like Charles III. I named Ava, little bird. Anyway, I digress. When you name something and it feels so right, I hope so, felt so right. It felt like right, like when our little Navy was named Navy, our chocolate lab, and my previous chocolate lab, Luna, God bless her. Like the name's so special. And whenever you name something, like I think it helps come to life. And that's why I have just mad appreciation for Phil M. Jones for helping me land on the idea of I hope so. The how to choose hard or how to choose hope even when it's hard. That yeah, Navy said, yes, you named me right, mama. She's barking for those who, yeah. Oh, Memphis. Memphis, that's a do not. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you a Navy story and didn't give props to Memphis. He is also named very well, in my humble opinion, as well as Apollo. We have all the friends here today. What we know about when we kind of name something, we put it together and it comes forward. It's this idea about like authorship is ownership and being able to like own the idea that I hope so is yes, it's a practice and it's choosing hope even when it's hard. Felt like this lovely circle that brought back the idea of I can do hard things, which was real heart of the first book, Calm Within the Storm. So bringing hard into the title with hope, like that tension between hope and hard, like it just felt really right. So again, I thank Phil Jones for starting that. I love what it feels like when we name something and the name fits. It feels like, yes, this is what was there. The book also, I want to make sure that it isn't sugarcoating, it isn't downplaying reality. It is a research informed blueprint on if you are like, man, I'm in a funk. Man, I'm feeling just a little bit like, I don't think this future that you speak of, Robyne, is actually bright. Have you watched the news recently? Yeah, I've watched the news recently. And something I just would love, this is just a tiny little soapbox. I want to tackle this just really quick for a heartbeat. I'm very concerned right now about the state of the world, 100%. And another component that I'm very concerned about is people consuming news as a form of entertainment. Watching people's lives crumble and watching it over and over and over again and watching these things unfold. I'm concerned right now people are watching it as a form of entertainment, that it's some twisted reality TV show. These are people's lives. I don't want us to be using news as a form of entertainment, as a form of like discussion in terms of not problem solving it, just literally gossiping. And again, my gentle invitation, if we're going to cultivate hope practices, where do we even start? This one little takeaway from this podcast today that I hope you can take from this moment is be cognizant of whether or not we are using news as entertainment. Now, interesting, like I was listening to an interview that was done by Monica Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky, she is, oh my gosh, she is well spoken. She's such an amazing thinker. And Monica Lewinsky, she was involved in a US situation years ago, and she has this great podcast. And she was interviewing Amanda Knox, who is an exoneree. She was a woman who was a student, who was an exchange student from the US, who was she was studying in Italy, and she was wrongly accused, imprisoned for over 4 years, and then exonerated from a crime she did not commit. And these two women were in this dialogue. They were in this conversation on Monica Lewinsky's podcast. And that was one of the kind of ideas that Amanda was talking about, was this idea that her life became this like for public consumption. And Monica echoed that, where her scenario was for public consumption as a form of like entertainment. Like people passively were just watching these women's lives unfold in the most horrible, unjust ways, the same way we would watch a show. And again, my gentle invitation is to be aware of how we are taking in information and really reinforcing that muscle that we all have around critical thinking, around like, yeah, I want to be informed, but that doesn't mean I'm going to watch and follow this unfolding of world events in a way that's entertaining. All right. So whatever that interrupt is that you might need on that pattern of that, like that scrolling or checking out those headlines or all that clickbait, you've heard all the things. And now we're talking about like bed rot, where we like lie in bed, and then bed rot, not like the sores bed rot. It's like literally we like lie in bed and just like watch things to our own detriment sometimes. If we want to be hope practitioners, if we want to get our hopes up, we got to put some guardrails around what are some of our practices that we are doing, perhaps even on autopilot. All right. So, my gentle invitation before you even start your day and turn yourself out and kind of unleash yourself into the world, could you just try looking after you and the people that matter most to you first? Okay. Being outdoors, we've talked about that before on the podcast, getting some fresh air, some nature, that vitamin N that we talk about, just before you show yourself everything that's wrong with the world. I want you to make sure that we're creating this like hopeful haven within ourselves, where we trust that we are well resourced, that we have the right energy, we have the right focus, we know how to make what matters most matter most. Just starting the day in a state of being hope filled and believing, you know what, parts of today are going to be good. Parts of today are going to be tricky. You're definitely going to have at least a bad few minutes, maybe even a bad hour. Yes. And you are also going to have some things that are going to go A-okay. We're going to put positive intent in there. I'll teach you on how to do that. In the book, we set up these frameworks so that way you can feel better. Yet again, you can feel better by design. Hope doesn't happen by chance. We have to cultivate that muscle. I'll show you how to do that. So, my friends, this is just like, gosh, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about this. I hope you're excited about this. Over the next few months, I'm going to keep rolling out some of these big ideas about what the book looks like. You can already pre-order the book. If you have questions, curiosities, wonderments about that book, please, please, please reach out. I'm so excited to create a community of people who are brave enough to be hope-filled. Right? Because my friends, like this is like not easy to do, but it's worth it. It will feel so good when you can, in your own family system, in your own day, put up this almost like this like force field of, again, we're not ignoring the bad stuff. What we're doing is being like, yeah, and we're going to face it. We're going to face it head on. We're going to be agents that hold the line that says, we want big, bright futures for our children. We want big, bright futures for everybody. We want to lean into the greatest good. And this is how I do it. And it starts with me. It starts with you. I'm throwing this out as a little call to action. If you want to be part of this, if you're like, hey, Robyne, I don't know what this looks like, but hey, you got me balling. I want to be balling with you, sister. There's a spot for you. We will find a way for you to be part of this campaign, this rollout, so we can get this good work out into the world. So, my friends, please feel free, reach out to us. We are here. That's also way too rough, Navy. We are here to have that conversation, to welcome you into the space if you want to help. And maybe you have some ideas. You're like, hey, Robyne, this is an idea I have on how we can get your book in the right hands of the right people so we can be agents of hope. Or, as my friend Kim said when she literally gifted me this on a t-shirt, let's be hope dealers. Let's press and push and share hope, because we know the world needs it, I think, now more than ever before. So thanks for listening to this episode. Drop me a line, drop me a comment. If you want to be part of this little hope campaign, this hope crusade, I don't even know what it's going to look like, but I'll always make a spot for you. So reach out, take good care, and join me next time where we're back to interviewing really super cool people talking about super cool things. Be good, take good care, and I hope today is a hope-filled day for you. Bye for now. Thank you for spending time with this podcast episode today. I hope you found something helpful in Resiliency Redefined. Please feel free to share it with somebody who you might think could benefit. Maybe there was something useful, something in particular that you think you could pay forward. Also, if you have a moment, please feel free to rate and review this podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast. It means the world to me. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you for your interest. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.